Evening, welcome all of you. And I would really thank you for taking out time from your schedules and joining us today. As Shankar has already introduced me, my name is Sangeeta Nath, and I'm a senior product marketer with Zoho One. Today, it's right there in front of you. Today, we will talk about information ingenuity and intelligence, and we will see how the marketing landscape has changed, and with that, how the marketer has changed, the role of a marketer, the nature of a marketer. And I know every one of you are already aware the nature of marketing. The essence that marketing has is very dynamic. It is ever changing. It changes because the needs and demands of the customer changes. And this past year, the era of pandemic, the entire year of pandemic, things have changed so much that marketing has also evolved at a very higher pace. And the three I's that you see there, information, ingenuity, and intelligence, are the three phases that a marketer needs to go through in order to make sense of the abundance of data that's out there and finally translate it into intelligence. When I say intelligence, I mean something actionable, something that can be actually and practically used by a business to leverage the market, to make sense of what the customers need. So without further ado, let me just begin. The first thing I would want to do is ask all of you this: what positive impact has the pandemic had on your professional lives? Please know and see that I have asked you for a positive impact. Okay, just go ahead and think of something positive. The reason I asked you for something positive is because I want you to tell me what positive has come out of it, because we've spoken a lot about negative effects of the pandemic and how pandemic has disrupted our lives. So go ahead and tell me what positive impact has the pandemic had on your professional lives. I will give you a minute to go through the poll. Just if you tell me one thing that has come out positively from this experience of yours, there is. And the reason I'm saying this is that I wanted to start with something positive today. Okay, let me move on. We look at the polls. Right. Okay, so this is what we will talk about today. This is just a blueprint of what we will look at today. The first being the effects of the pandemic. Not so much negative, because we have all spoken about that, but we will begin in a positive note, and we will look at two very informal examples of how the negative impacts of the pandemic was turned into something very memorable by two brands out there. And then we will move on to talk about the key thing that pandemic has done to our lives now, has accelerated digital adoption to a pace that we would have never imagined before. And then we will get into the major chunk of the presentation, wherein we will look at information, ingenuity, and intelligence as three phases that the marketer goes through in order to make sense of the abundance of data. And in ingenuity, we'll see there is a key skill that the marketer needs to possess in order to make sense of all the data around them, in order to unlock the potential that the data can give to them, and then translate it into intelligence, wherein you can actionably use that information with the sense of ingenuity in practical purposes. Then, before wrapping up, we would be talking about all the change that is happening all around us, and how, in quick 5 steps, how can businesses harness that change? Because you cannot control change. You cannot control what's changing, but if you harness the change, you will get the maximum out of it. And wrapping it up, we will talk about a brief McKinsey report, which was published very recently on June 26th this year, which talks about a sustainable pace of change. Moving on. This is one example that I wanted to highlight. So, The Tonight Show by Jimmy Fallon. This is a typical talk show. I'm sure all of you are already aware of it. It has a typical setup, live audience. There's a couch, there's a host, and there's a guest, and they are having a conversation, and there are jokes being cracked, and the audience is reacting. And this is the setup. I know you would have, if not this show, you would have seen other talk shows. So after the pandemic, post the lockdown, when Jimmy Fallon entered the studio, he wanted to begin to reshoot the show, and he found himself cracking jokes at an empty studio. And everything fell flat. All his jokes fell flat because there was no one laughing, there was no one clapping, there was no energy that he felt from the audience because there was no audience. So finally, Jimmy Fallon got quite worried, and he went back home and called up his crew the next day and told them, do one thing, just pack up everything and come home, come to my place, and we will do the shoot at home. And that is how began the at-home edition of the Jimmy Fallon show. The reason I have these two images right here for you is just look at the contrast of the sensibilities in the picture. On the left, Jimmy Fallon is in a city background with suited up clothes and gelled up hair, very, very formal and very measured smile. And look at the picture on the right. There's a big dog, there are plants and gardens, and their hair is disheveled, and he has his daughter sitting on him, and the logo of the Tonight Show is crayoned on a paper by his daughter. Just look at the stark contrast. Something good came out of something very cozy and comfortable, came out of something that was not being able he couldn't lift it off the ground post-pandemic. And today, the at-home edition of Jimmy Fallon show is live. Go ahead and watch it. One more small example. There's a Thunderbird School of Global Management affiliated to the University of Arizona. And the 2020 graduates were extremely upset that they would not be able to physically come and go up to the stage, their names being called out, and it's a memory, right? And they were extremely upset that they would not be able to do that. So the chancellor of the university opened up the doors of his cabin, and this is what they did. They sent out caps and gowns to all their students, asked them to wear them and take a picture of themselves and send out a digital copy to the registration desk of the chancellor. And then a chief guest was called, and this was the setup. They took a tripod stand, they mounted an iPad there, and every time a name was called, the picture of the student popped up, and this photograph was taken. This photograph for the 2020 graduates is going to remain in their memory. It is something unique. So the reason I brought up these two is because there's something good that has come out of all this stress and struggle and survival that we've had this past year. Let us remember that before we even go ahead in the presentation today. Whether you agree with me or not that there has been something positive that has come out of pandemic, but there is something even more important that has come out of this pandemic is accelerated digital adoption. Just imagine how much of digitalization do you use now than, say, a year ago? How much we are indebted to technology now because nothing is face-to-face anymore. You are right there in front of your computer, and that is how you're connecting to the world. Either it's your phone, your tab, or your laptop. So accelerated digital adoption is something that the pandemic has really given us. And in most of our cases, our businesses have thrived because of digital adoption. Time for just one more question before I dive into more of marketing. Now, be honest with this. How vital is marketing to help your brand reach a wider audience? When you think of marketing, do you think of marketing as something very essential to your brand, or something that you put on the back burner and think about it when you have some mind space? So how vital is marketing to help your brand reach a wider audience? If, as a marketer, if you ask me, it is essentially, it's absolutely important. It's absolutely essential because, of course, I might be biased because I'm a marketer, but hear me out. If you, I have known my friends who have companies and customers who have uh, completely shut down marketing for obvious reasons of budget cuts and the like, have completely shut down marketing and only focused on sales. But riddle me this: if people do not know what you offer and do you exist, how would they even come to you to buy anything? So you cannot have sales without marketing. That's why sales and marketing also do go hand in hand. Go ahead and answer this for me, and we shall move on. All right. The major part of the presentation. So, information, ingenuity, and intelligence, the three phases that a marketer needs to go through to do their daily job. So, in the first layer, information, we will talk about abundance of data. There's so much data out there that you need to make sense of it. Unless you make sense of the information available to you, you will not be able to use it in any good way. And then in the second phase of ingenuity, we will see that there is one key skill that your marketer needs in order to make sense of all the data that is available out there. One key skill that I would like you to take away today from this presentation, that your marketer needs now more than ever in order to do his or her job. And then intelligence is purely something very actionable that you can do with all the data available. Moving on. The first one being information. Now, according to the researchers at the University of California, San Diego, in the year 2009, an average person consumed 34 GB of information on a daily basis. Now, you might think 34 GB is a lot of information. Sounds like a lot. Do you think scrolling through Instagram, you consume that much of data? Well, think again. In the past decade, more than a decade, we are in 2020 now, terabytes of information have been replaced by gigabytes. So now we are not even talking in GBs anymore. We are only talking about consumption of information in terabytes. And with that information in mind, when you think of 34 GB, it sounds like a complete digital detox. It sounds like 34 GB has been nothing. Just think about it. There are Twitter feeds, there are Instagram stories, there is Facebook Live, there are TikTok channels, there are Slack channels, there's YouTube. There are so many media houses and social channels out there that are begging for your attention every minute of every day. And then suddenly you don't know where to focus. And if you would believe me, experts have even coined words for this condition, quite scary words, if I may say so. Infobesity, something like called infoxication, and information anxiety disorder. They sound quite scary to me. None of this sounds positive. Read all three of them and tell me, does it give you anything positive? So, which means there is an obvious information overload. To give you an idea of the gravity of the situation, how serious it is, this is an infographic on what 60 seconds in 2020 on the internet looks like. I'm not going to say anything about this. This is quite self-explanatory. Take a minute and go through this visual and just for the gravity of the situation. Almost all of you use all of these applications, I'm sure. So this is what an internet minute looks like in the year 2020. Moving on. So yes, in the light of all this information that I've just shared with you, there is an information overload today. We live in an era of information overload. That is a given. But I go ahead and ask you, does all this information overload, all the information that you're absorbing and consuming, does it give you a better perspective? Take a minute and think about it. All the information that you are collecting, all the information that you're absorbing, is it giving you a better perspective? If you ask me, my answer would be absolutely yes. It does. Indeed. that there are no two ways about it. Yes, the more information you consume, the better your perspective is, the more you open up your mind to new experiences and new things and new perspectives. However, what it also does, what all this information also does, is it also makes us slower. Why? Because there is a heap of information out there that you do not know how to make sense of. You've just absorbed everything from all around you, everything that's begging your attention. You've split your focus and you've absorbed everything. But the moment you sit down to, say, write a blog, or an article or a newspaper piece or an editorial, you don't know where to begin because you have absorbed so much and you haven't made sense of it. So ultimately, it has made you slower. Then the question arises, what do you think will save the day? What do you think, for, say, for a marketer, because today that is what we are focusing on, say for a marketer, what will save the day? A marketer has to read up 25 different white papers in order to write a blog which is for 750 words. Tell me, he or she cannot afford to spend 3 days reading and then writing for 5 days. They cannot afford. Then what do you think is going to save the day? Before you answer that or even think of an answer, just take a look at this. The senior director of US SMB growth marketing at SAP Concur says this: I ask everyone on my team to be creative in solving the problems suggested by data. Read that once again. He asks his team to be creative in solving the problems that are suggested by data. Definitely abundance of data. This visual will tell you only one thing, that one skill that your marketer needs to unlock the potential that the abundance of data has hidden in it somewhere. That he needs to find that gem of that wealth from all the heap of information around him. What does the marketer use? The marketer uses creativity. Creativity, human creativity, is so unique that it cannot be taught, it cannot be copied. You can only teach yourself and you can only hone creativity. So take this away from you today. Take this away with you today after this presentation. Human creativity is that one thing that your marketer needs in order to divulge that information, that there's a lot of information, that gem that he needs to find. He will only find it if he has an emotional quotient, if he has a sense of creativity, the skill of creativity embedded in themselves. Moving on. What are the two most important factors that you take into account while creating a marketing plan for your business? Two most important factors. You have some options out there. Coming to the second phase of what the marketer needs. So what we saw is there is abundance of data, and then there is this key skill of creativity that your marketer needs to possess and hone in order to make sense of the data. And now comes the phase of ingenuity. Data and creativity. If I tell you they go hand in hand, do they? Or are they like oil and water? Do they not mix? Let's look at a few examples, because the common ground between data and creativity is actually not as uncommon as we as we think. There have, for decades and for centuries, musicians and artists have merged these two skills together, have merged information and ingenuity and creativity together to create something beautiful. Think of Leonardo da Vinci. Da Vinci, we all know Da Vinci as an artist. But did you know that Da Vinci studied physics along with art? He was so fascinated with the concepts of physics that he took the essence of physics and he applied it to his art. And thus, you have such beautiful paintings that after years and decades, you still adore them, you still remember them. One more for you, Beethoven. We all know Beethoven as a musical genius, but do you know that he studied, along with music, he studied mathematics? Everything in mathematics seemed like it had a rhythm. For him, mathematics was not just information or data or numbers. For him, everything in mathematics felt like an even rhythm to him. So if you look at his piano piece, the Moonlight Sonata, you just go dig deeper and see how it is made. The notes are actually mathematical expressions. And used together, being fused together, I found was in the Central Intelligence Agency, or the CIA, as we all know it. And the name itself is quite suggestive, the Central Intelligence Agency. So you might find it quite fascinating that in March 2019, in March 2019, the CIA, the higher ups in the CIA, realized that they are missing a key skill that their officers need. So once in around March 30th, they had a new batch of hires come in, and they took their training schedule and they put in elements of creativity and to train the officers. They told them how you can merge creativity with data and unlock situations and come out of situations when you are in a jam-packed lock. So these few examples all across the globe will tell you that yes, data and creativity do work together. If you see closely, even you, whatever kind of role you are in, you do mix data with creativity, whether you do it knowingly or unknowingly. I leave it up to you. But if you sit back and think, you would have an element of creativity in making sense of all the data that is around you. Now that we have established that data and creativity merge together and goes well together, let's look at 5 ways businesses can merge data and creativity. And this is where I would talk to you a little bit about what we did in Zoho, what we as a team did. So a few of my personal experiences, one by one, we shall talk about them. Okay, so before I go into the 5 points here, I would tell you that none of these points are new. But you've heard of all this, but let's see what is that key element of creativity that is missing from these points that can help you unlock the potential that you haven't yet unlocked. From your customers, from the market, from your own employees, from your own people. Let's see what they are. Okay, first one, collect customer insights. Definitely. Anyone who's doing a business and serving a customer, if you do not know what your customer needs, you cannot serve them. You cannot deliver. Definitely, you need to collect customer insights. But what can be different here? What can be more? What can be more creative in this element that we can add to make it better? Collect real-time customer insights. So this is something I would explain this more with an example to you. So as the Chennai office went into lockdown, we all realized that the customer needs are changing very fast, and all across the globe there are there are uh, there are customers who are dealing with, there are countries are dealing with the pandemic and the lockdown situation differently in each country, and each country has been at the peak of the curve at different points of time. So definitely the situation is not the same globally. So we gave it a little bit of a thought, and what we did was, we have a huge partner network which is spread all across the globe. So we needed some real time customer insights because we did not know how to help our customers all across the globe. So we asked our partners to reach out to us by talking to their regional customers and tell us what each region customers need right now. So we could help them the way they needed to be helped. So, unless and until we had the real time information which our partners provided for us, we were not able to help the customers the way we wanted to help them or the way they needed to be helped. So, collecting customer insights in real time is going to take you a long way. Second one, communication. It's a no brainer. We all need to communicate, and we need to communicate well. And now more than ever, communication has become key because you are not sitting in front of each other anymore. More often than not, uh, all your coffee breaks have become looking at your screen and mind-numbingly drinking coffee. It's become, communication has become even more important now. But what is it that's missing here still? Be agile in your communication, be approachable in the way you communicate. uh, one of our customers, he's been a long time customer of Zoho, and I have known him for the past 3 years. And he called me up one fine day and told me, Sangeeta, I have a favor to ask. And I was like, yes, please tell me. And he told me, is it okay if we do a collaboration for a guest webinar along with Zoho and my team, and do some social media blasts along the way so that we get some traction on digital media. And uh, and what started as just that statement turned out to be a we actually did 5 guest webinars along with them, and they helped us with content. We did co-webinars, we asked questions with each other, and it actually helped the company out. It helped that customer out in a huge way. What it took from my end was just some care and some effort, but also agility. If I would have blocked him out, I would not have been able to even begin to help him. So communicate, yes, but be agile and be open in your communication. Develop connections. We develop connections every day. We develop connections every week. We are talking to our colleagues or someone new every day and every hour, and now more than ever. So what more can you do? What more can you do? You can develop personal connections. Pick up that call and call your friend who started a business 6 months ago and ask them if you can help them. Not financially. Financial help is not the only help that you can provide. You can do so much more other than giving someone money that will help them. Pick up that call and ask the new business owner. If you are selling a product, give your product free for the first 6 months if you can afford to. It will really help a small business owner. So don't just develop connections, develop some personal connections because the world needs it right now. Problem solving. It's absolutely self explanatory. We all do this on a regular basis. But what you can do is you can change your approach to problem solving. One very interesting example of our CEO, Sridhar Vembu. He has been he's been quite worried about the number of people being a lot in our Chennai office, and he has been telling us that we need to do something about it. And so suddenly, when we went into lockdown and offices closed and everything, he realized that he needed to approach this in a different way. So he 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 gave us an answer in a way that he said, I'm going to develop hub and spoke kind of offices. So the Chennai office, the Chennai office that we have here, is the hub office where all the R&D and all the data and everything is there in the hub office. And all across the state and neighboring states, in small villages, we have made some spoke offices, very small working places with a desk and a chair and a fan above you and a beautiful view outside as workplaces. So those small offices are now helping and aiding every employee that has gone back home to work. They have a place to go to, and social distancing is being maintained, and all of that is intact. But look at the way he approached the problem. If you are able to solve a problem by even helping others and not just yourself, I would urge you to do that. This is something that was wonderful. It was so heartfelt of him to do that. So change your approach to problem solving. Don't just help yourself. Help someone else if you can afford to. The fifth and the last one: redo. What do you need to redo? You need to re-strategize, restructure, relearn, and readjust. There's hardly anything to say about this. It's right there. You need to relook at everything. Right now, things have changed. Nothing is the same as it was 10 months ago. So you need to re-strategize the way you go to the market. You need to restructure the team so that it balances well. You need to unlearn and relearn a few skills so that you can take up some more responsibilities, not just be in your comfort zone. And you need to readjust to the things that are constantly changing. It will pace down after a while, but right now we are all surviving. We are all strategizing. And so you have to restructure, re-strategize, relearn, unlearn, relearn, and then readjust. Everything, all of these 5 points that we saw today, right now, where data and creativity have been merged, can be merged by businesses, has been possible not just by adoption of the digital, but by accelerated digital adoption. Go back and look at those points. You will not be able to do them right now without being digitally sound. So every brand out there, if you have a firm footing in digital adoption, in adopting digital technology, you will survive and you will thrive. Do not let this be you. Do not think that, oh, please, digital transformation is years away, and I do not see our company having to change anytime soon. And suddenly this huge ball and chain of COVID-19 comes along and hits you smack in your stomach. Let this not be you. The last and the shortest part of the presentation: intelligence. So we looked at information, we looked at ingenuity, and now let's look at intelligence, the practical aspect of what we just spoke about right now. Everything that can be actionable. What can you do? What can your marketer do? And how does your marketer make sense of all this and make it into intelligence? This is a very heavy statement. Information alone is not intelligence, and one of my favorites because it is so true. All the information that you have, it's not going to help you if you do not make sense of it, if you do not actually really use it. There is a pathway that leads to intelligence. From information, you need to walk towards intelligence. Having information is not enough. So the information is there. You need that aspect of ingenuity in between, wherein the skill of creativity comes along. You need to make sense of it. And only then do you reach intelligence and transform the information available to you along with the ingenuity that you possess to intelligence and into actionable inputs that can really help your business in the long run, or even in the short run, even right now. In the light of this, let's look at this. Okay, so when you look at this statement, you will say, so CIOs have been there since forever. Why would I write the rise of the CIO? Because the CIO, today's CIO, is the Chief Intelligence Officer and not just the Information Officer. This is kind of a new trend that is coming along, wherein The CIO is not just the person who has the information, but also translates it into something practical and gives it to the companies for actionable inputs. So at times there are two different people, two types of CIOs working together, or at times there's a dual role of the same CIO to take information and translate it into intelligence, something actionable. As I'm repeating again and again, something actionable. That is what I've used the word intelligence here for. So the rise of the chief intelligence officer is on the horizon. It's already almost there. And the last poll of the presentation today, please be honest about this. When was the last time you changed your brand's marketing strategy? There's no right answer to this. So please go ahead and tell me, when was the last time you changed your brand's marketing strategy? If you would allow me, I would have a sip of water. All right, moving on. I'm just going to wrap up the presentation into a tight bunch now. So whatever you've seen all this while, whatever we've spoken all this while, one thing has been constant: change. Change is evident, change is happening. We have been living through the change this past year, and there's still change coming up. And with change comes challenges, the challenges that need to be overcome. So the last bit of actionable insight that I would like to share with you is how a small, very small 5-step guide to how you harness this change. You cannot control the change, you cannot see it coming either, but you can be ready for it, and so that you can harness the change to unlock the potential that you can actually get. Quick 5 points. First, plan. Be ready for change. Change is always coming. Be ready for change. Make your employees, yourself, your marketing plans, your sales, go-to-marketing strategy, everything. Be ready for the change to come. Look out for it. If you plan, change will not hit you as hard as it could. Second, create. Create relatable, shareable, and innumerable amount of content. Just create. Creation is something that never goes to waste. Create content. The more you create, the more your customers and everyone who wants to be your customer later in life will remember you. That is, if you keep popping up everywhere, they will remember you. Create content that is relatable and shareable. Engage. Do not let that connection go. If you have developed connections, make them personal connections and keep the engagement alive. When you are stable enough, pick up the rope and begin renew that engagement along with when you have had. So don't break the engagement whatsoever. Execute. Please do not procrastinate. It's very easy to overthink and rethink and keep on re-strategizing and re-executing, but there needs to be a balance. Execute as soon as it is ready, because with the pace of change that is happening right now, you might not ever get the chance to showcase it. So if it's done, and it might not be needed anymore by the time, if you procrastinate and by the time it goes out into the market. So execute. And the fifth one, optimize. Never stop optimizing and improving your customers' experiences. Never stop optimizing the amount of time you're using. Never stop optimizing. Optimizing will take you a long way. And especially never stop optimizing and improving the experiences of your customers and doing what needs to be done. Who then is the marketer of the future? If you ask me, this is what I feel. This is what I have been through. This is what has helped me. So who then is the marketer of the future? So there's data, whether you call it artificial intelligence or the abundance of data that's already out there, or raw data, or anything. Data plus creativity, which you can also say emotional quotient, will together is going to give you the marketer of the future. A marketer, as I said already, is no more just a person who sends out campaigns and just talks to you in emails. No, a marketer is now equipped with creativity as much as with data, and the beautiful merge of those two, a sweet spot in between of both that merge, is the rise of your future marketer. That is where your marketer is and will be in the future. I end this with a quote that in 2018 in Davos, Justin Trudeau made this statement, and it is true even now. The pace of change has never been this fast, yet it will never be this slow again. We've been changing so many things so fast this past year, but some things have absolutely come to a standstill. Read it once again, and it is so true even now. What then is the need of the hour? The McKinsey report published on June 26th this year talks about a sustainable pace of change. They say the CEOs must realize, the CEOs, the CIOs, the top brass of companies must realize that change cannot be too fast. If it's too fast, there will be a very faster burnout. You will burn out. And if it's too slow, you will cease to exist. So a sustainable pace of change is the need of the hour. And a very, very active shift from adrenaline-based speed to speed by design. This is what I leave you with today, and thank you so much.